Welcome to the Practice You podcast. My name is Elena Brower. Together, we'll explore and enjoy content and conversations around mastering transitions in our relations, our wellness, our careers, our families, and especially in our missions and visions. You are invited to learn and love and listen with me. Welcome to Practice You. Welcome back to the podcast. I have one of my best friends here today. His name is Jeff Burroughs. He is a hip-hop iconoclast, I guess you would say. He brings, that's what I would say. We've known each other almost 20 years. His work is to bring, let's say, formally cultural relevance to brand initiatives and artists. He has worked with some of today's most innovative brands. He was the head of commercial for Simon Cowell. He built solid brands for so many creators. They use Simon's global platforms. They use the X Factor, America's Got Talent. Music is really at the core of every initiative you've ever led. You've been, as you say, fortunate enough to have developed successful brand strategies for Grammy award-winning world-class artists such as P. Diddy, 2 Chainz, YG, top-rated TV programs like The X Factor, host of CPG companies. You're a big deal. I forget this because I love you so much and you're just my buddy. But you're a big deal. You were the executive vice president of Bad Boy for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I want to talk about that for sure because it was kind of at the tail end of that is when we met. So I have my morning dream this morning. You can't even make this shit up. It was some birthday party for you. Diddy was there. It was a recollection, not really like a made up dream. Cool. But we were back in this restaurant where the walls and everything was quite red and very sexy and beautiful. And we were all at a super long table. And Diddy was holding up a glass and he was just loving on you. It was so beautiful. I was so proud to be your friend. And I woke up like, whoa. And I realized that happened over 15, 17 years ago or something like that.
Yeah. Wow.
I was right back there.
Good times.
It was good times. There were tables that were danced on.
Yes. We did a fair amount of that.
My gosh, you've just been assigned as the SVP of marketing for Def Jam. I want to say congratulations.
Thank you.
Best of luck to you. This is not an easy time to be taking that on. Yeah, but I think you're made for it. I want to talk today about a few things. One, I want to talk about your history with music, how it got installed in your body from such an early age. Who were your greatest influences? And then I want to take it from there.
My greatest musical influences. Mm-hmm. I would say probably my first musical influence is church. My mom used to take me to church every Sunday as a kid. And my favorite part was when the choir would sing. And the feeling and the emotion that would just pervade the entire space. I mean, suck up all the air in this fever, in this joy, in this energy was like the most moving part of my week. So I would definitely say that how I found music was the feeling. I always found the feeling. And then my dad, would buy me albums because we lived out in the country in New Jersey and I just lived around all white people, really. We were like the only black family in this white township. So my dad didn't want me to be like corny. So he would bring me like Shaka Khan and Earth, Wind and Fire and the Jackson 5 and Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye. Like he would hit me with whatever he was listening to.
Right.
And he has great taste in music. I mean, so that's all I really had. I had that, and I had an AM transistor radio,
Mm.
and whatever was on the radio when we were driving in the car, which was mostly pop stations. So I had this weird kind of confluence of musical kind of inspirations going on in my head.
Right.
Um, and then lastly, I would say Broadway. My mother is a fan of theater, and as a little boy, she would take me to Broadway shows like Pippin, and I would hear these big, big musical numbers
Mm.
that were so intricate and so full of music and emotion that it spurred me towards having a deep passion towards music.
Wow. God bless the Shaka Khan influence.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
All of them.
yeah. Those were-
And your parents are still alive.
My parents are both 85 years old this year.
Wow.
Yeah, blessed.
They're fine. They're perfectly healthy.
Everybody's in great shape.
Wow.
Everybody's in great shape.
And your sister?
Yeah, my sister is here for the summer with the kids, and we're all
Oh,
hanging
that's
out.
awesome. Perfect.
Yeah, she's I'm always loving when my sister's around. She's my favorite person.
I know. I
So
remember this.
great.
I remember seeing the two of you together, all of her freckles, and thinking, oh God, I love her face. And thinking, I wish for that, for all humans, that they should have a sibling relationship like the one that you guys have.
Yeah, we're tight. It's good. It's the best.
When you were growing up as the only black family, which I didn't know this about you. I wasn't sure where you grew up. What was that about? And I'm going to ask one hard question, which is, when did you realize that the system was actually working against you in that realm?
The first time that I read my first experience with real racism,
Yeah.
I was a Cub Scout. So I
Oh,
don't know.
damn it.
I might have been like 5 or 6,
I'm already upset.
and we're in the grocery store, and I'm just kind of hanging on my mom's skirt, and I see my den mother from the
Mm-hmm.
Cub Scouts, and I'm like, "Hey, Miss So and So, Miss So and So," and she's not responding. I'm like, "Oh, she must not be hearing me." So I'm like, "Miss So and So, Miss So and So," and the woman's just like looking straight ahead. Now this is a woman that I see once a week for the past months or whatever, so I know she knows me.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm like playing myself. I'm like, Miss So and So, like waving and everything. And my mother notices, and that my mother has this dead look, this real serious
Mm.
look in her eye, and I can see just how upset she is, and she's like, "That's okay, Jeffrey. Ignorance is bliss." And she kind of pulled me out of the store, like just confused, and
Wow.
then sat me in the car and had a little talk about some people aren't so friendly, some people aren't so nice, and that was the end of my Cub Scout career.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, like that.
I'm a little speechless on this one. Um, so you never went back to the Cub Scouts. That was the end of that.
Yeah, that was the end of that.
School was fine, relatively speaking.
In terms of race relations,
Yes.
I mean, I was a little boy, so some people would call me, people would call me nigger, people call me names. Most
Mm-hmm.
of it just kind of, most of it just fell off of me.
Yeah.
Only one time did it bother me. We were reading about, I think it was like third grade. Yeah, this it definitely bothered me because I remember it. Third grade.
Yep.
We were reading about slavery, and the kids were saying that it's a story about me, and the teacher kind of allowed it. And then this went on for days, and maybe a couple of weeks. We were on that section or whatever. But the kids would like pick on me about it, and the teacher, it was Mrs. Smith.
Mm.
Mrs. Smith, and the teacher allowed it. And I remember feeling really, really ashamed,
Mm.
like feeling ashamed and confused.
Yep. So I'm going to back up for a second, and I'm just going to say that for the last, I don't know, 3 weeks or so, I'm spending like 5 hours a day learning the whole history of this country, the stuff that I wasn't taught since the 1400s, from England, Portugal, Spain, France, and coming across the ocean to this land where all of the indigenous people were categorically murdered and their land was taken. And then with the advent of slavery. And none of this really did I understand the depth or the profundity of it. I didn't understand that it was really basically a genocide, not unlike the Holocaust, just over a longer period of time. Had not a concept about it. I was in a predominantly white school. We had a few black families, all of whom I loved. And I've recently realized that every time I saw a black girl my age, I had this sense for some reason that they were royalty and all I wanted was to look like that. That's like the truth of the truth. The remembrance landed on me when I was talking to another friend of mine recently. Anyway, I say all of this to preface my next question, which is, at what point did you realize that you didn't need to respect the structures that were in place and that you could just do whatever your heart desired with your life? Because that is ultimately what you did. And I want to have that as the inspirational crux of who I know you to be and of this talk that we're having.
My father used to always say, and still says, and now I say to my sons, laws are made for those who don't know how to govern themselves. He would say that all the time. Laws are made for those who don't know how to govern themselves. Laws are made for those who haven't governed themselves. So I feel like I grew up with this kind of understanding that that I was going to make my own rules, that I was going to create my own path, my own paradigm of life, the way that I wanted it to be for me. And I don't know if I'm practicing that. I'm practicing that. I don't know if I ever own that, because the reality of my life is that I'm consistently under attack. Um, I'm consistently having to fight battles on multiple fronts. It's it's an interesting thing being a black man living your life. You know, the fear, the frustration, the rage, the passion, all of it comes together when you're reaching for whatever it is that you're reaching for. And, thank God I found yoga through you. And I was able to kind of like contain my rage and find useful ways to utilize my frustration and put all those emotions to work to the betterment of myself and my family and my community. But I think to answer your question, I've always felt that I was going to have to create the life that I wanted to live. That there was no blueprint for what it was that I wanted, and I was lucky enough to have a dad that was, such a wild boy. Like
He really
I
is.
spirited,
Wow.
father that he was setting the path.
Right.
Really, that my greatest hero is my father. He was really setting that you could have a great time all the time. That no matter what happens, you can find a way to party in that moment. No matter what, make sure you find a way to find your smile in all of it, and celebrate all the time. And the smallest things are blessings. So while I reach for the greatest, I still can see every teeny tiny blessing that is before me in every moment.
I have seen this in you. That's why I wanted to ask the question, because to me, to the outside world, it really does feel like you are designing, achieving, getting, and moving forward all the time. I think it's important for what I know to be a predominantly white audience to hear all of what you've previously said, to hear the truth of what it means to be a black man growing up and living his life in this society. You live now in rural New York, and you're heading up one of the biggest record label resurrections ever. And to all appearances, it would seem like no problem whatsoever. You're rocking it in every single position that you've held. I am interested in sharing with my listener what it means to overcome these various ridiculous, long-held, unnecessary, unsustainable obstacles that you faced. How do you teach your kids about that? How do you make it through yourself? What gold is there to mine from this?
Mm. To my children, my oldest boy is now about to be 14.
Yeah, they're both the same age, Bailey.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And Jonah.
Mm-hmm.
To Bailey, I have to have very real conversations,
Yeah.
that he's a threat to his society.
Yeah.
His skin is a threat. His movements, how he talks, what his gaze means, and how many people that sets off in different ways, and how careful he has to be. So the reality of it is it breaks my heart to have these conversations. I mean, it literally breaks my heart because I don't want him to have to live with one arm tied behind his back. But
Yeah.
that's literally the society that we're in. It won't be fair for him. It won't be fair. And so what I told him the other day is like, you have to be great. You have to be greater. You can't be good. You have to be greater because they're going to keep throwing shit at you. And you just have to just be stronger that you could get back up. You could jump over that hurdle. You can have uncomfortable conversations. You can develop tact and skill and charm and guile. And you could be great. You could be scientific about your business, not just instinctual, but you can understand the data. You can understand the research. You have soul in your body, so you can feel what the soul does for your imagination, and you can trust your intuition. So, I mean, I just put the battery in his back to be great. When I
Yes.
drop them off at school every day, the last thing I say is be great. Don't be good.
Be
Be
great.
proud of yourself. Like, can
Yeah.
you make yourself proud of yourself
Yes.
all the time? Like, as long as you're making yourself proud of yourself, that's really all I can ask as a pops.
Yeah.
Just make yourself proud. You're gonna always have to do a little bit more. It's never gonna feel fair. But after a while, that shit just gets you just normalize that shit. You just normalize it. You normalize that it becomes a habit. That being great is a habit. Knowing that you're gonna have to think in three different dimensions in the
Yeah.
room
Yeah.
is a habit. And I think women deal with that. All minorities deal with that. I think different people from different ethnic backgrounds, everybody has their burden. This
Yeah.
is what the burden of the black man sounds like, or my experience of it, and how I see it, and what I've seen. I've seen a lot of young executives. I've trained a lot of young executives, and I have to give them a different kind of advice on their path so that they can deal with it properly.
How do you, there's so many things I want to ask. Well, first of all, just for the listener who happens to be interested in what's being said, but maybe hasn't actually done the research and the study that is required to know the depth of what Jeff is referencing. It's important to look back to the 1400s and see what happened when these folks came across the ocean and wiped out an entire population of Native Americans. And it's really important to see what happened. You can look at easily the 1619 project when you look at that Portuguese slave ship that got hijacked by
Mhm.
English. And that's kind of where it all began. And here we are, 2020, we're 400 years later, and we are having a conversation that is based upon that moment in time. We are now stuck with the remnants, the residue of something that is so old that doesn't belong to us, and yet it totally does. And I think for my listener, I just want to put in front of you the following task that if you are white or white passing, it is on us to learn as much as we can about this so that we can start to understand the depth of the it's just such a fucking mistake that you have to teach your kid where to keep his hands and how to speak and how to control himself and live not two but even three, four different dimensions at a time so that he can manage everyone else's experience of him. That's the mistake. And that's the thing that we have to spend the rest of our lives, I feel, making right. My
Cool.
voice is shaking. I'm just pissed off. I'm still pissed.
That's potent. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah. I'm just doing as much studying as I can, but I'm still upset that you have to fucking say that to Bailey. That pisses me off. You know, that Jonah doesn't, I don't have to say that to Jonah. Jonah doesn't have to worry about where his pants are or whether he puts his hood up.
Yeah.
Pisses me off. In any case, happier things.
Can't cry, Elena.
Dude, I'm trying not to cry.
Well, we gotta do this interview.
I'm really trying not to
Together.
cry. It's
Together.
it's you know what it is also. It's hearing, you're like one of my oldest friends in New York and hearing you as a father, and picturing you opening the car door and him closing the car door and you saying what you're saying. It just opens and bursts open my heart into a million pieces in a good way. It's so beautiful to see you. I want to talk about your work though.
And all my children, my daughter's the same. I get to tell them
Yeah,
that every day I drop them off. That's a blessing.
that's right. Your baby girls.
Oh,
God was good when he gave you baby girls. I'm just going to
no
say
doubt.
that.
No doubt.
Wow. Oh,
I earned them.
you did. You actually did. Um, all right. I want to talk about work though. I want to talk about work because I know that what
Cool.
you're doing right now is so much fun for all of us to see you, an industry now veteran. We're old enough to say that you're an industry veteran. I can't get over it.
Yeah, me either.
I want to hear. Give me the favorite moment in your time with Bad Boy. Your favorite moment. What's the first thing you think of?
Favorite moment, bad boy. God. I mean, I don't know if I can think of a. I can think of different moments, right? I don't think I
Okay.
have a favorite.
Okay.
One day, and this is when we're well into it. Puff is working on. He's working on Victory. Um,
Mm,
we have to have a meeting because we always had to have a meeting. And Puff never. He didn't work out of the office. He worked pretty much from the studio and just from wherever he was. So I would have to always go wherever he was. And this particular day, he was mixing Victory, and he was also vocaling Victory, but he was by himself.
wow.
And Puff was never by himself. He was always there was
Right.
always a gang of people, assistants and engineers and other A&R guys and artists, and there was always so many people. So it was just he and I, and he was mixing the record himself, and it was magical to me watching him take all the files and put them into what I believe is one of the best Bad Boy records produced. It was it was magical watching him work because I think of all the many things that I admire Puffy for, and love that brother and for everything he taught me. But the pure joy I watched him have while he was mixing the record, I was like, oh, this is actually what he's most brilliant at.
Yeah.
He's most brilliant at taking pieces and putting them together. You know,
Yeah.
like everything that he ever created was like a great sample, but he would
Yeah.
just make it that much better. Sean John is really Agnes B, and Chirac
Right.
is really Absolute remixed. Like Revolta's MTV. Like he's just the
Right.
greatest remixer producer ever. But watching him that day was a highlight. He and I really enjoyed.
Mm.
Um, when we did something called the Soul Train Awards. It doesn't happen anymore, but it was the Bad Boy family, and we did the Soul Train Awards. And for those that are very old, might
Dude,
remember.
if you were born in 1970 or previously, you know what Soul Train was.
So So Big is performing, Puff is performing, the Locks, Faith, I think it's the whole family.
Ooh.
And we had on these baseball uniforms created, so it was like a team. But Big didn't have any shoes that fit. The stylist got the wrong shoes. So it's just madness and mayhem backstage, and so many people, and so much at stake. And it's, it's a big deal for us because I don't think we had ever really been on TV, definitely not as a family. And Big had to go out standing on the back of the shoes. Like the shoes didn't fit, so he had to put them on like slides,
Oh my God. Oh my God.
go out and rock. But it worked, and that was a very, very special moment. And
Wow.
love that. You know, we had we had so many great times. But I wouldn't say like, oh, it was when we won a Grammy. It was when we did
No.
the MTV award. It was like it was all these little things that weren't really public, but were just
Right.
special to me. Like
Right.
the camaraderie of how we would always fight, but at the camaraderie of how we would pull together when the lights came up, everybody was a star. Everybody.
Mm, mm. Random, just remembrance. I was watching last week, instead of my morning meditation, I was watching Snoop Dogg talking to Fat Man Scoop,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what I was doing. And he was talking about how he 6 a.m. Mountain Time, and that's what I'm doing. I'm watching Snoop just pop it up on his Instagram Live. I'm having such a nice time. And he's talking about how he ended up making up with Biggie before Biggie was murdered,
Mm-hmm.
which I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me think of you, and I made a mental note that if it came up, I was going to remember to ask you, were you around at that time when Biggie was taken from us?
I was there that night. Yeah, sure. We were all together.
Oof.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
was wondering about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anything that you would like to share from that? Just, I had to, when I found out about it, I was driving in Los Angeles. I was there for work, and I had to pull over and cry
Mm.
at the loss. Anything that you could share about that night, what you felt, what you saw, what it feels like now? I know that I have several listeners who are going to be interested to hear that up close.
I mean, I'll never get over it. Um, it was never the same. Um,
Yeah.
Puff was never the same.
Yeah.
Really, it was a seismic shift in in our world. Um, I mean, it's a murder scene, so there's no highlights.
Yeah.
Prior to that, we were at a party
Mm.
and we were all together, and Big Big was like, "There go Jeff with the ladies. Jeff's always with
Oh,
the ladies." And that's the last thing that he said to me. There go Jeff with the ladies. Jeff's always with the ladies. But the party
wow.
felt weird. The energy was off. I mean, I just felt it off.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna go because I think we had been hanging out for a couple of days. It was like a long week into weekend.
Mm.
I went, I left. We were in, yeah, we were in Hollywood, like by the Peterson Auditorium, and
Yep.
then yeah, I went to my hotel. I was in my hotel for maybe 20 minutes, and I got a call.
Yep.
Go to the hospital. They had to take Big to the hospital, and you know, it was all bad. The rest of it was I had 26 kids that worked for me all in LA.
Yep.
I had to get everybody home. Like they were all kids. We were all babies. What was I, 28,
Yeah, you're in your late
27, 28?
20s. Yep.
So I mean, there were teenagers there, you
Yep.
know, and everybody. We thought we were going to get killed. We didn't know what was going on. Like we didn't have an argument with Suge. There was no East Coast versus West Coast beef. It wasn't real.
Yep.
But someone's took it upon themselves to make it very real, and we were just scared, you know.
Yep.
But I don't know, you know, something about it was like it's not time to be scared, Jeff. Like it's time to get into action, get everybody home,
Yep.
get Biggie's mom to him,
Yep.
get Puff out of here because Puff fell apart.
Yep.
Get Puff out of here, and Andre was there, and Jimmy Love was there, and we just banded
Andre,
together.
rest in peace. My
Yeah, my
God.
man, the best. We just banded together as we always did,
Mm,
and we did what we had to do, and we got everybody home. And I got home. I stayed until Biggie's mom and Faith came,
right.
took them to the funeral home, and then I got on a plane
Yep.
and brought my ass home. It was just dark days.
You know, I watched that documentary. I'm not going to say anything about it here because it's, everything is speculative at best, but we all know there was no beef. It's clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell your audience, there's no
Nope.
argument. There's no, if you don't do this, we're gonna do this. There's no such thing. We
Nope.
were just making records, man. Like we make records. We just make records. That's all. We want to
Music.
entertain people. You want
Yep.
to entertain people.
Who are you most excited about now? Teach us about the artists you're dying over right now.
You know, I'm so excited to be able to work with Kanye West. Like I never worked with Kanye West, but I knew Kanye West,
Right.
and
Oh my
and
God.
I just and you know Kanye's so he's such a hot button. But I've always loved him. Like all his antics and all his shit. And if you speak with him, it will make complete sense. Like the man
Yeah.
is utterly brilliant
Yes.
and a wild thinker. He's definitely created his own universe and planet
Yes.
of thinking. But it all makes sense. And I flew to Wyoming before the Jesus is King album and spent 2 days out in Wyoming and listened to
Mm,
the album. And I
mm.
was like, my man is gonna make gospel cool. Like he gonna make hip hop guy. He gonna make gospel cool, which I
He
thought was
did. He
the
did that.
flyest shit in the world. And the choir and how we
Yep.
got the whole world singing gospel songs and
Yes.
performed it, on Sunday morning at Coachella like that. I mean, of course, you're inspired to work with Kanye because he's one of the best ever to do it. So I'm really inspired by him. In terms of new artistry, there's a young artist by the name of Cash Page who is creating a genre. We're calling it toxic R&B because young kids are so emo now. So
Right.
you know what I'm saying. So toxic R&B, but that's dope. That's dope. She's got a very interesting way of approaching melody that nothing sounds like anything else
Right.
that anyone's ever done. So I'm having some great conversations and very. She's got a record called Love Songs that really took off. That I don't know, that's close to 100 million streams.
Mm.
She's incredible. I'm excited to work with YG, who's a huge West Coast rapper that we're going to be taking massively global. He's got, we did a march 2 weeks ago in LA. YG brought 50,000 people out
Wow.
to protest against the police. The following
Wow.
week, we put out a record called Fuck the Police.
Yeah.
About 5 million streams in a week. I'm excited about that record.
Mm-hmm.
There's a young rapper from LA by the name of Bino Rideau, who's he's got a couple of really, really special records. He's got a record called Brand New. Super, super melodic. Like I'm a sucker for melody. I
I
love
know
the
you
way
are.
yeah, I love
I
the way
know
he
you
approaches
are.
the song. And if I
Mm.
can't sing along, I don't know why I'm doing it. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I want to be able to sing
Right.
along. I want to be involved
Right.
in the music in some way. So really excited about that.
Yep.
And of course, I manage an artist by the name of Quinn, who is one of the more special voices and songwriters and creators. Like she creates all her own videos and her own clothes and all the music and all the writing. And, she's created her own genre called fantasy soul. And there's just nothing else like her. So, she's like my sister and my
Hmm.
partner. And I'm in love with what the future holds for her.
When I look at Quinn, I can't help but think, who were her parents? They must be incredible.
She's Mexican and Puerto Rican.
No way.
Yeah, yeah.
Have you met her folks? Are they incredible?
I've met both her mother and father. Her mother is just a darling school teacher out in
Yeah,
Pasadena. And her father was a musician. He plays the congas. So
of
anybody that plays
course.
congas
Of
has got some
course.
serious, serious rhythm going on. So
Mm-hmm.
that's in
Mm-hmm.
her DNA.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, and she said to me when I first met her, it's got to be 5 years now, that I don't want to do it like anybody else, and I
Yep.
believed her.
Yep.
And I've been following her. The interesting thing about my relationship with her is, while I've created a lot of pathways for artists in my career, in this case, I'm simply an assistant to her path.
That's a beautiful thing. I remember when you told me about her the first time, and I was like, I just had to lie down to
Ooh,
listen to her music when you first
yeah,
sent it to me. I was like, dang, what is
we
that?
got to put out some new stuff. She did this duet with Miguel called "Heal the World," which is
Oh,
beautiful.
I'll get it.
Q-Tip produced it, so it's kind of like I was able to put all my peoples
Mm-hmm.
together. So her and Tip, and then we just added Miguel.
Oh,
Heal the
wow.
World. We're gonna release that very soon.
Will
Um,
you make sure you send it to me and I'll post it?
I will. She wrote it a long time ago,
Mm.
and then I was like, yeah, she never finished it. She starts and stops a lot of stuff. So I was like, yo, you ever think about that record again? She was like, oh yeah, yeah, we should probably do that. And then I
Mm-hmm.
called Miguel's manager and I was like, yeah, Miguel is a favor. You think he would jump on this? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, oh shit. And I was
Let's
like,
do
Tip,
it.
you still got that track for Heal the World? Like Miguel's gonna jump on it. He was like, yeah, man, we could do it. Let's do it. So we're
It's
finishing
funny
that.
when you do his voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My man.
The
Yeah.
best of the best. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Kamal Fareed. Q-Tip.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Hard to beat that guy.
No, it's very hard to beat that guy. You can't. That music comes on when I'm running. I've texted you a couple of times when it's happened when I've been in these far flung places. But dude, I can only think of you and me dancing in some basement on Bleecker Street in the freaking early 90s, just
Yeah,
hitting it so hard, so pretty, so
getting it in.
good. I have three questions that I usually ask every guest. I'm only going to ask you the second two because the first one we've already established the answer to, which is what needs healing right now. The second question is, what is your favorite view? And it can be anything. It can be esoteric, literal, figurative, anything.
I have a little place, the Hamptons is my happy place.
I know.
That when I first started going there in my early 20s, a big bunch of guys rented this house, like just way too many guys, like
Brett,
11 guys,
Jason.
3-bedroom house,
I
it's like
remember.
insane. And down the road was at the end of this beach road was this entrance to Northwest Harbor, just off of Sag. And it's just the world stops and it's just so still
Hmm.
there. And the water just laps quietly to the shore. And I don't know, I just feel drawn to this place. I've been going there now 30 years.
Yep.
Whenever I have to make a major life decision, whenever I need to pause, whenever I can, I go to that place and look across the water from the shores of Northwest Woods over to Shelter Island. And I've watched the sunset there just countless times now. And
Hmm.
the most beautiful, amazing place. I brought my children there, and now, when we stay out there in the summer, I take them there at sunset, and they swim at sunset, which is like just unbelievable.
It's the best. What a gift you give to them, my God.
Yeah, we getting it in, y'all. We getting it
Yeah.
in,
Yeah. The last question, promise. What does prayer mean to you?
I pray in so many ways. Um, I pray to higher power. I pray to myself, of myself being its highest power. Um, I find the ability to find clarity and peace in my thinking and posing questions or my desires, or fortifying my dreams with whatever forces exist outside of myself to guide me in any way possible. So
Hmm.
um, I find myself saying long prayers and little micro prayers and all kinds of prayers that need answering for
Hmm.
myself and for others. And we're all in need of a lot of prayer now. Like so much pain these last few months. I've
Yeah.
lost a couple of family members. I lost my brother Dre, and that I'll never get over that. And
You did.
the pain of
It's so serious.
pain of watching George die,
Yep.
and the anguish of watching people isolated and separated from each other by masks and gloves. And
Yep.
I don't know what all this is for, but we certainly need to pray on it, and pray that we learn the lessons that we need to learn so we can move past this painful period and figure out what it is that we're supposed to do next,
Yep.
and do it right.
I feel in my heart, I really wanted to talk to you because I know that you're bringing music during this time. No matter what, this is what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life. You're bringing music out. And that was one of the real main thrusts of why I wanted to talk to you right now, because there's, as your daddy taught you, you got to make it great wherever you are, whatever shit is going down. And that, I think that is what your life is about.
I
I
think
think
so.
that's what you do. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
been my experience of you.
Well, I've been very blessed. I've been so fortunate and so lucky, like
Hmm.
just so lucky that I always felt like I had to make sure I gave back because nobody gets to have it this good. Like, come on, man. Like, damn. Like, it goes good for me.
Yeah, it
So
does.
we're
It
doing a lot
does.
of we're doing a lot of work. Years ago I was doing all that work with Mr. Belafonte, Harry Belafonte, and
Right.
it was very, this is after Eric Garner's death and after Michael Brown. And it was difficult to really get people to engage, and people really believed it was a black problem, and people wondered, were the police violent brutes? They weren't. They really didn't believe it, and I don't mind casting the finger at black people as well. When I ask for help, people act like they had something better to do. A lot of people shun me, and these are business colleagues for many years, and it was particularly challenging and difficult. And
Mm.
this time, I found myself in a senior position at the Universal Music Group, and
Mm.
as it happens, the interim CEO of Def Jam Records is a man by the name of Jeff Harleston, who his brother was a line brother with my daddy. So we've known each other professionally for upwards of 20 years. And he's a passionate, uber intelligent brother. And we now sit in a position to leverage the power of the Universal Music Group to make lasting and systemic change. And he appointed me to a subcommittee of our task force internally on policy, legislation, and voting. And I'm able once again to put my frustration to work and
Mm.
build bridges to organizations like the Color of Change and Michelle Obama's organization, When We All Vote, create these partnerships and activate all of our artist partners who have the loudest voices in the world,
Right. In the world.
to speak to change in a systematic way, like not as just individuals, but as a voice, as a unified voice for
Yeah.
change, and to make art that reflects that change that they want to see in the world. And then once again, look what happens.
Hmm.
I'm blessed to sit in a seat that I can actually deliver art to shift culture. So look what happened.
It's exactly what needs to be
I ain't playing that
happening.
shit. That shit just happened. So I'm
No,
gonna do
when
what
you,
I gotta do. You know, I'm gonna do what I gotta do.
I just want to cut from the little kid in the grocery store calling out to that dead mother
Mm.
straight to this. You know, if I could, that's the little short I would make and say this is what's happening now. This is the healing that's taking place, and this is one of the people who's about to make it. So
Yeah, thanks for the thanks for the inspiration, then, mother lady.
yeah,
How you
thank
like me
you.
now?
How you like me
How you
now?
like me now?
Oh my God. I
Word up.
just have to say, forget about thank you because that'll never do it. But boy, am I so honored to just be your friend for all these years and have gone through so many different phases and people and places with you. You are a light in this world. You're my fucking brother, and I could not love you anymore.
Please, sister. You know I always love to see you shining. We could do this
Hmm.
forever and ever and ever and ever. Love you so much. So,
So much.
namaste, baby.
Namaste, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.